Hello there, welcome back to my videos on Lemmings Plus I. We're up to Medi 16 at the moment, which is the odd stack. Now this, in my opinion, is one of the hardest levels in Lemmings Plus I. It's definitely the hardest level in the Medi ranking. And actually when it was moved to Lemmings, it was actually made a bit easier in that the time limit was increased to 4 minutes. It was previously 3. This is also another one of the levels that was backported from the cancelled sequel project, and I believe it did have a name change. I don't remember what the original name of it was. Yes, it is definitely a very challenging level. So really, the design of this one was pretty much a just slap down box in an odd looking shape. This one-way wall here was made to avoid a particularly easy solution by just mining down there and building up to it, forcing you to instead go pretty much the whole long way around. So it's basically a matter of, with the 3 miners you have, you've got to create a path up there. One of them is actually just used to bypass the exit, and yes indeed you could just bomb here and mine under it completely. Not that it makes a huge difference really. Now fortunately this level being added in V7 does mean that it never had timed bombers to deal with, so that's probably the one saving grace on this level. That's always been there. As you can see, it is possible still to complete it under the old time limit, but it's very tight compared to the new time limit. So that's Medi 16. Before we go on to Medi 17, we will look at PreV7 3, which was the original Medi 16, which is a level called The Lonely Pole. Now it's yes, very fiddly solution, and it's not so bad under Lemmings with the direction select and all that, but it's still pretty annoying. Like also, back when the bombers were timed, it made it even harder to get out of this first bit correctly. It was basically just a matter of bomb at the right position so that they fall into here and then mine through, so not a particularly challenging level. It's just a matter of trying until you get it right. So back to Medi now. Medi 17, which is 6 feet under. This is a repeat of Mild 5, and it is pretty much purely a bomber level. Before the move to Lemmings, this level did have blockers as well. Those are gone now, which does actually make it a fair bit harder. And the hardest part of it is the fact that you've pretty much got just enough bombers to get to the exit. Well, you've got more bombers than that, but just enough losable lemmings to get there. But once you can figure out, especially that trick of waiting for the whole crowd to get down there, once you've got that, it's not terribly bad, this level. So we'll get on to level 18 now, which is going under. This is a repeat of Mild 24, I think it was. And it's a fairly straightforward one here. There's the one catch that you don't have any downwards destructive skills, so you got to go a long way around basically. So you've got on this side you can just stop him here. On this side you got to build all the way across, or you can use your blockers. The advantage of doing it this way, of course, saves 100%. There's not really that much to say about that level. It's pretty much just a repeat to fill in the space. So on to level 19, Force Field. Now this is an easier version of one of my oldest levels that still survives to that day. You'll see the original level when we get up to the danger ranking, since that level's in there. This one, they're getting rarer, but they're still here. This is an example of such a dumbed down version of a later level. The one semi-challenging factor is there's only 10 builders rather than the usual 20 of everything. It does have 20 of the other skills. I mean, it's definitely not a hard level by any means, which is probably a good thing because there are a fair few hard levels around it. I mean, we had Medi 16, that's just insane. And then we've also got Medi 21 coming up, which is another fairly hard level. So on to Medi 20. Now this is a level that was taken from a Windows Lemmings based pack I made quite a while back. Newer than the cheapo Lemmings Plus packs, older than Lemmings Plus I itself. Now in that pack it was actually one of the hardest levels. It didn't have a 10 of everything skill set, but the solution from that relied on a specific mechanics detail in Windows Lemmings that doesn't work here. So I sort of included it as a filler, but just as a fairly simple level. And not that it's the easiest level out there, but it's not too hard. It's still a bit of a breather, which, I mean, if you're playing, you're going to be thankful for, because this next level, which is As It Burns Away, this is another very hard level. Now this is another one that was backported from the cancelled sequel pack, and so it was a V7 edition. And when it was moved to Neo Lemmings, it actually had an extra skill added. I have a feeling it was the builder, I don't quite remember for sure. But yes, I mean, not that it's the only way, but the real kicker here is that trick of building there to keep the miner going. And the design of this one was pretty much just thrown together for its cool looks, with a solution coming later. But definitely one that worked out well. And I mean, it's not exactly rare for me to design levels that way, so this level may not look too hard once you know the solution, but it is actually quite a pain to work out, especially how you're crossing like sort of cell and a half here, and you've got to bomb as he climbs or else he'll fall down here. Okay, so we're on to before we do level 22, let's go back to the PreV7 rank, and we want level 4, which was the original Medi 21. Now this is a level called Ghostly Hall. I'm sure just by looking at it you can see why it was taken out. Even the comment here says, I think it's quite obvious. So I'll let the replay out, but it'll be under PreV7. As you can see, you've just got these 6 blocks. You've got a lemming that comes out of nowhere there. And what it is actually like invisible, what would you call them? Invisible boards, planks, something between these, each set of 2 of these. But there's little gaps in it, as you can see. So it was basically a matter of trial and error, work out where the gaps are, then work out how best to avoid them and get to the exit, which is here, which of course you have to work out where the exit is as well. So I think it's pretty obvious why that level got taken out. So back to Medi now. Medi 22, Lemming Entertainment Centre. Now this is a repeat from the early parts of the Wimpy rating, and as you can see, this level is basically designed around the idea if you've only got one builder, you can't contain the crowd, so you've got to delay them. And the main trick is just to get the worker significantly ahead like that. I mean, you could always like not bomb them and instead just make the last lemming or second last lemming a blocker, free him later. Yeah, there's not much this level beyond that little trick there. time limit is seemingly tight, but it's, well, as you can see, it's plenty, resolved in nearly half the time here. So on to level 23, which is called This Is. So this is a repeat of my old 14, and this was one which is sort of just thrown together to fill up space, but it's actually a level I quite enjoy. So it's just, you've got 5 of everything rather than 20, you've got to save every lemming, and you've got a pretty tight time limit for it. But apart from being it's a fairly difficult one, but it's still ultimately just a worker lemming level, so one thing that can be a bit tricky is if you let him turn around, he may end up taking too long, so the easiest way to do it is actually have him climb up and bash through. It's a trick which I haven't actually used in many levels. In fact, I'm not sure if I've used it in any levels other than this one, where, as I said, you don't have to do it necessarily. So now on to level 24, Eye of the Lemming, which is one of the more clever puzzle levels. So we've got 10 lemmings and we've got to save all of them. Now this one was designed around the puzzle, so the original idea was actually similar to a level we'll see in Danger, but it didn't quite work out here. Now notice the decorations, this sort of worked as a holding pen, so came up with a solution that involved going back to it after the lemmings turn around here, rather than trying to contain them up here, which can't really be done. It's one of those short, simple, like not complex but not obvious puzzle levels, and I think for that reason is one of the reasons why it is a very popular level. It's one of the ones that made it into the top 32 levels collection pack. Okay, so on to level 25, which is Chain Reaction. This is another one that came from my older Windows pack, and this is, to put it quite bluntly, a bloody awful level. Like, this would have been a better candidate to remove than Medi 8 was, just to give one example. It's pretty much the entire purpose of the level is for the pun in the level's title. Like, I'm not exaggerating there. Now, of course, the obvious solution is you go to the edge, build up, block, and come back, but why do that when we can take shortcuts? I suppose in one way there's the challenge of like not boring yourself to death by working out that shortcut, but overall, yes, that is an awful level. Now, level 26, Overheat. Now, I think this one may have come from my Windows pack, I don't remember for sure, but either way, like, the idea is, at first glance it seems impossible. You've got these flamethrowers in the way so you can't build up. So basic idea behind it is you actually use the seemingly decorative areas to get up to the exits. It's another very easy level, but unlike the last one, I do, even with the excess building, I think just because of the concept behind it, I find it to be, well, definitely a better level than Chain Reaction. Definitely at least give it that. But yeah, it is still really just a X of everything worker lemming level, fairly easy one. But okay, so that one's passed. On to level 27, which is a repeat of my old 12. So we've got 50 lemmings, 96%. Now, before Neolemmix and even in the earlier Neolemmix releases, you actually had 5 floaters on this level, which opened up a very major back route where you could just float down, block, build a platform, blocker, meanwhile you've got another blocker here containing crowds, and you just bash under them to free them. Now, removing the floaters it's made the intended solution a bit more obvious, but it's gotten rid of the back route, which is basically just you go the long way around, come under and build your platform from the left side. It's not an overly hard level, not an overly easy one. It's not as, for some reason, not as popular as its early version, even though its earlier version was just a 20 of everything level. I guess it might be the variety of solutions that worked in the easy one. I'm guessing also that major back route was probably a factor in its not being so popular. But anyway, we're on to level 28, which is way up high. 20 lemmings, 95% to be safe. And this is one, basically you've only got the one builder, so you've got a climber for every lemming, so it's basically just a matter of not doing things in the wrong order. So basically you want to make sure these guys are over before you start building, or you just build from a little bit back. And don't forget your floaters. Now this is a level that does have a repeat. I don't actually remember which one came first in this case, but they're based on fairly similar ideas anyway. Its repeat is quite late in Psycho, but we'll talk more about that when we get to it. So now we're on to level 29 of Medi, which is Lemming Sense. This is a repeat of PreV7, and it's basically the overall solution is the same, but you've got much less spare skills to do it with, and less spare lemmings. Like, for example, you can't create your own holding pen with a couple of blockers, you've got to make use of this one, which means you have to find a way to let them out. Hardest part is, because you don't have blockers and you've got limited spare other skills, is that you've got to find a fairly creative way to turn your climber around here. Obviously there's no floaters, so obviously that's a safe fall. So my favourite way of doing it, it's not the only way, but my favourite is to just make one a basher here and have the other climber run into him and turn around in this tunnel. From there, the rest can pretty much be solved the same way as the earlier version. One thing I've noticed that, I'll go back so you can see that. So what you do to free these guys, you basically bomb just after he steps off the edge. And from there they can get to the exit. That passes that level and puts us on to the final level of Medi, which is Consider Everything. This is a repeat of the descending pillar scenario, which was mild 28, I think. It's a bit harder this time, you don't have any vertical destructive skills. Unless you count bombers, but you don't have enough of them to really make a difference. So the basic idea is you go down the pillars, then come back. Now you don't have to go into this last one here, of course you can if you want, but pretty much from this one you can start making your way across. Basically the design of this one was really just made as a sort of twist on the ascending pillar scenario, except apart from less pillars, it's almost exactly the same. Solution's very different though, and of course the entrance is on the top of the pillar, and you don't have any way of going down, so in those regards it's a bit different, but this is a relatively easy level to finish off the Medi rating. And I mean, first level or two of danger aren't too bad either, so it's a little bit of a end rank, start rank breather session. But once you get to third level and onwards of danger, it does start to pick up quite a bit. So I mean, as you can see, it's already started to pick up a bit by this point, but getting into danger it becomes a lot worse. So anyway, that's all for this video, so I have another one up at some point, starting on the danger levels, and Psycho, which should have a lot to say about some of the Psycho levels. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. As I've said in the other ones, I am doing another series which is a playthrough of the level pack Jeff Lems by the user Red Room. It's a very good pack. I mean, I'd recommend you play the pack honestly, but if you don't want to do that, I'd definitely recommend you at least check out my videos of it. But yeah, I would recommend you play it. It is a very good pack. And currently my videos on that are up to Mayhem 15, so they're nearly finished. I'm hoping to get them all finished before Gigalems is released, since I want to hopefully do videos of that my first time playing through it. But enough talking about other videos, let's leave you with that for today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good day.